Diablo 4 is not what you think it is. Um, from my from everything we've seen on it, it looks like it is going to be fairly different, but I don't think the gameplay is going to be different. From what I saw in the trailers and stuff, it looks going to like Diablo 3 in a sense, but it's going to be more open. There's going to be a more emphasis on multiplayer, including PvP multiplayer. So I think they're trying to basically make like World of Warcraft in a sense, but Diablo style, which I have no problem with. I love both those games. So if they are going with that, as long as they're not pushing it for a pay to win thing, I don't really have a problem with battle passes as long as the game is free to play usually. Um, and not free to play, that's bad. That's not what I'm talking about. As long as it's a live service, you know what I mean? Like them having a battle pass, but then like them releasing steady new content, I have no problem with. It's like Genshin and stuff. The only problem with Genshin, in my opinion, is that the gotcha mechanics. But like the battle pass, I don't have any issue with it. I just don't like gambling mechanics in my games. So, but yeah, this is by Legendary Drops. Already subscribed, so let's give the video a like. I do like some of his videos because it's very thought provoking. I would say like the conversation is really usually good. So let's take a look.
No! You mustn't do this.
Oh,
This
Deckard
is
game.
terrible story writing.
Live with it, Kane. We cut the budget and we had the
Oh yeah, Diablo 3 story. My God, it's like how do you get a Diablo story bad? Like wrong? Like it's just it blows my mind.
story written by some guy living in a Denny's parking lot.
But why? This is a beloved franchise.
They'll buy it anyway, Kane. Besides,
True.
we plan on turning this into a mobile game.
Oh, gods.
Wait
Oh yeah. God damn.
till you see what we have planned for Warcraft 3. Now die, Butterfly Cannon!
No. You've lost a player, Magda. I'll never play Diablo again.
Diablo 4 will have 150 dungeons and more cinematics than ever.
Oh, well, sweet.
I don't think anyone quit Diablo 3 because of the story though. I mean, obviously there probably were, but I think it was a super low minority or like who did that. Because I don't know anyone among my friends who saw Deckard Cain get killed and like uninstalled the game. It was more like, oh, that's stupid, but still played the game until like they got bored of it. Because it's not like even the previous Diablo games had like riveting stories. It's cool, you know, trying to fight the devils.
Still not subbed? Okay.
All right, so let's talk about Diablo 4. Diablo 4 is a title that's been held in a state of conflict ever since the utterance of its development. Across Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, I've seen both content creators and fans of the franchise undecided on their positions with the game.
I think most people are going to buy the game and try it, at the very least. Diablo is such a beloved franchise. It's like... I'm trying to compare it to anything, but... Because it's not Mario level. I don't think it's that level. Maybe Pokemon? No. It's hard to say. I think Smash Bros might be the best way to look at it. I'm not sure though.
You'll hear things like, it's gonna be pay to win. It's just high-res Diablo Immortal. I just can't trust Blizzard anymore. So on and so forth. While I believe every consumer should be skeptical of any product until that product is released, this is why I say
Even after release, you should still be skeptical. Oh, can't even speak today. Man, it's so bad. Anyways, you should still like not trust the developer because there's been plenty of times where they say things, the game releases, and everything they said was true, but then like a month later, it's now pay to win. Like what was it? I think Torchlight did that shit. Um, there was another game I can't remember anymore, but that happens like enough times to where, yeah, you don't ever trust any game. It doesn't matter.
Don't pre-order games.
Just base it on, do you think you'll have fun with the game despite it being pay to win? That's how I look at it.
I do believe that a lot of the common judgments that are levied at Diablo 4 are
Like Lost Ark, a lot of people wanted to play Lost Ark, and everyone knew the game was pay to win. It is. Like anyone who argues differently don't listen to them. They have opinion. Their mind works in such ways that no one could comprehend. So don't ever listen to any other opinion if someone says Lost Ark is not pay to win. But still, like I played it. I know a lot of people I know played it, but it was because I saw the gameplay and was like, I can have fun with that at least. You know what I mean? Like obviously when it got to like higher levels where you're just spamming honing and it was just basically gamble mechanics at that point. That's when I stepped away because it was no longer fun. But until then, I had a blast.
misplaced. So let's dispense with pretense. Let's look at the information that we have available to us, shine a light on some of the biggest concerns regarding Diablo 4, and find out exactly why you are
The biggest concerns with I thought the only concern was the pay to win. But let me see.
buying Diablo 4. All right, let's tackle the golden, diamond encrusted, cash stuffed elephant in the room. A lot of people believe that Diablo 4 is just going to be Diablo Immortal with a fresh coat of paint. And honestly,
I actually don't think that's going to happen. I think Blizzard isn't that stupid, especially since they already have Diablo Immortal. They don't need to make Diablo 4 Diablo Immortal 2. They can also just make a Diablo Immortal 2 for those people who don't mind that stuff. But I don't think they're so stupid that they literally use they would shoot themselves in the foot with a shotgun. Like that's basically what would happen if they made Diablo 4 like Diablo Immortal. I truly believe it would kill the game for those, uh, for a majority of the player base. Because personally, I would not, it's not that I would never trust Blizzard again. It's more, I would not play Diablo 5 if Diablo 4 was basically Diablo Immortal. Or at least I'd wait until the game came out and, a bunch of reviews came out saying otherwise. That's the only way I'd be able to be okay with buying Diablo 5. But like I said, it just doesn't make sense. They have Diablo Immortal already, and I know the argument could be, well, they can make more money, um, which is true. But at the same time, you could also make that argument with Dragonflight. When they saw the success of Diablo Immortal, why didn't they see that and put those things in Dragonflight? It's because it would kill the fucking game. So, say what you will about them. They're not idiots over there. I'm pretty sure they can obviously see. I think a lot of people kind of let it slide for Diablo Immortal because it's a mobile game. Almost every mobile game is pay to win. So that's why most people were like, fine. Okay, it sucks you did that with Diablo, like the Diablo name. But at least personally, I didn't care because I don't play mobile games. So I'm like, okay, so you made a pay to win mobile game. Okay. As long as you don't do that to the main games, fine.
who can blame you? Diablo Immortal was a slap in the face. I don't think anybody thought that Blizzard would try to run Diablo Immortal, a mobile game, as a flagship title, giving
No.
it the BlizzCon treatment, giving us the you don't have phones treatment. It's left a lot of us burned and a lot of us asking where Blizzard is headed and what are they trying to do. I always felt that a mobile Diablo game was not only a desirable and logical product, it was a predictable W for Blizzard. I mean, Diablo and ARPGs are just so well suited for mobile.
It was a W. It was their biggest W in a long time. It made them a ton of money and made it like did garner some bad press, but at the same time, not enough for that money to stop coming in. It's not like the bad press came in and the game stopped making money. it still was making stupid amount of money. So like it was a W across the board, other than people saying it's a good Diablo game. And from what I understand, like it sounded like the game was pretty fun. It just was stupid, like crazy pay to win. So I personally would say it was a big W for the company, but maybe a small L for the fans.
Devices. However, I never thought they would present Diablo Immortal as a flagship, a title worthy of BlizzCon. I feel as though many of the concerns regarding
Why wouldn't they? Especially knowing what we know now, where they had all these pay to win mechanics and uh, things to try to force you to buy money, or not buy things, but buy money, spend money. Why would you think they would not announce it at BlizzCon? This is going to be their golden goose of making money. Are you an idiot? Like, what?
Diablo Immortal's influence on Diablo 4 stems from that condescending, prideful, do you not have phones announcement at BlizzCon. It was blatantly obvious that Blizzard felt that Diablo Immortal was a guaranteed win, that the fans would.
Is it just me, or it's like, I don't really care about that? Like, do you not have phones? I think that dude was just trying to salvage the situation by making a joke of it, not realizing no one was okay or like happy about the whole announcements. But I don't see it as like a big deal. So
Would lap it up, pay for their loot, and ask for more. We
they
translated
did,
Blizzard's arrogance and
but they were right. You can't argue that point. Then the numbers speak for themselves. You may not have liked it, and that's fine, but they definitely made more than enough money to prove their point.
their financial success of Diablo Immortal into ill tidings for what we could expect from Diablo 4.
We don't know that. We don't know how Diablo 4's sales are going to be. If Diablo 4 doesn't sell well, like it's pretty bad, then yes, we can say that Diablo Immortal did affect it negatively. I don't personally think it will, because I had no expectations for the mobile game. I think if you did, you were just kind of in denial. You were uh, kind of drowning yourself in copium. But yeah, I'm still excited about Diablo 4. Everything I've seen on it hasn't changed my mind. And if they do decide to put some pay to win mechanics in there, is that any worse than Lost Ark? Its closest competitor in terms of big ARPG games. I know PoE is an ARPG and it doesn't have pay to win, but at the same time, I also think PoE has a lot of its own issues that it needs to work on. To me, it's just not as fun as Lost Ark or Diablo. But that's neither here or there. But at the same time, if people are okay with it in Lost Ark, they're going to be okay with it in Diablo 4.
However, the community had major backlash over Diablo Immortal, likely influencing a lot of the choices that they made in Diablo 4. In June of last year, both General Manager Rod Ferguson and Community Manager Adam Fletcher came forward on Twitter explaining that Diablo 4's monetization wouldn't be nearly as aggressive as Diablo Immortal, limiting microtransactions to cosmetic only. While there was, and still is, a considerable amount of people that don't fully believe them, you must realize that their words hold weight and are proven by leaks, consumer polls, and beta testers. To monetize the game further with power-incentivized microtransactions would decimate what little respect remains for Blizzard at this point. Furthermore, I would like to add that in those leaks and polls mentioned earlier, the cosmetics for Diablo 4 didn't overshadow the items that we could obtain within the game. Personally, I find this incredibly reassuring because it looks as though the Diablo team is ensuring that the Battle Pass and the cosmetic shop remain features of the game rather than its foundation. This detail cannot be understated. Over the last few years, we've
So what you're saying is you're going to get Diablo 4, even though Diablo Immortal was such a pay to win game. So Diablo Immortal didn't really do anything. Okay, so I mean that's kind of did your own argument and kind of hit yourself in the face there. Yeah, no, I think that's the case with most people. is they were waiting to see what the trailers and stuff would show, the gameplay trailers or maybe some announcements. Um, and once everyone kind of saw them, was like, okay, I'll still give the game a shot because it's similar to Warcraft, World of Warcraft. They come out with a bad expansion, people will still give the next one a chance. But if the next one is bad, then you might lose a lot of your player base, such as Shadowlands. So I think Shadowlands was like a perfect storm of how to kill a brand. If it was any other MMO, that game would be dead.
We've had far too many games come out that have focused on their monetization first and their gameplay second. We've seen it with Halo Infinite, or Tower of Fantasy, or every single Square Enix games as a service.
I actually think Tower of Fantasy was pretty fun. My biggest problem with Tower of Fantasy was the time gating of things. That was really like annoying. But I think the overall gameplay and stuff was actually decent. Like, it wasn't maybe the best game I played, but it wasn't the worst. It was pretty fun.
Service game that has come out over the last few years. The fact that Diablo 4 is making sure that their gameplay is tight and that their monetization isn't taking away from that gameplay is huge. Diablo 4 is not Diablo 1, 2, or 3. One of the downsides or upsides, depending on what direction you're looking at it from, is that Diablo 4's development and its release is taking 11 years after the release of Diablo 3. The wants and needs of players, popular trends within ARPGs, innovation within the industry, a lot has changed over the course of the last decade. Another common complaint for Diablo 4 is its world. This is our first time with a static world. This is our first time with no procedural generation, and it's leaving players feeling a little jaded. So, as this is kind of a multi-layered subject, I'm going to try to attack this part by part. Blizzard sees the fevering popularity of games like Lost Ark and Path of Exile, and they seek to emulate some of that success within Diablo 4. I feel as though a lot of the changes regarding Diablo 4, like it always being online and
I don't think they're trying to copy anything from PoE, because unfortunately PoE is not doing the greatest in terms of like numbers. It's not bad, don't get me wrong, but it didn't pull even a quarter of what Lost Ark has. Uh, from what I understand, I could be wrong with that, but from what I remember with those numbers, like Lost Ark just blew PoE out of the water. It wasn't even a competition. So I think they don't give a damn about PoE. Um, if I was at Blizzard, I would not be looking at PoE. I'd be looking at Lost Ark.
having a static world are just natural evolutions of the game to suit current players' needs. The same can be said for the Battle Pass and the Cash Shop. We asked for this. We asked for a bigger Diablo. We wanted to play Diablo all the time. We wanted new content consistently. We wanted a more involved and immersive.
And this is kind of, honestly, kind of a dumb argument, because who doesn't ask for this in any game they like? We want more Dark Souls, we want more Elden Ring, we want more Pokemon, we want more Mario, we like any big franchise, you can say this exact same argument. So I don't think saying we were asking for a battle pass is like gonna do anything. Like, not gonna do anything, but like that's like saying every single good game is asking for a battle pass. I think most people would be okay with a battle pass on most games if it meant more content on the good ones. Like I said, Dark Souls games, Elden Ring. I have no problem playing with a battle pass on Elden Ring if it meant more content. But at the same time, is that me asking for a battle pass? No. I'd just be okay with it because I want more content.
Experience. We're getting what we asked for.
Nope.
All right, so this one's probably going to start a fight in the comments. Joe Shelley and the Diablo team are delivering on the needs of the players. That $70 price tag, which I'm not really much of a fan of, by the way.
I don't care. It's $10. It's not the end of the world. You can wait for it to go on sale if it bothers you that much. Or you can wait until it's like a used copy. I don't know. Like, do I think it's good? No. I think it kind of sucks. Because it doesn't make a lot of sense why it's $70. I know the whole, oh, games are more expensive to play. Yeah, but how is it that all these games that are so expensive to make are raking in all this money? You know what I mean? So I don't want to hear it. Like, to me, that's a stupid argument. But at the same time, I'm also not one to be like, okay, well, $10 is like a make it or break it if I'm going to buy a game. It just sucks. That's all it is.
Blizzard's initial return on investment for developing the game. The Battle Pass and Cash Shop, well, those help to fund continued maintenance, seasonal events, and additional content. The static world that a lot of people are complaining about, that's a place for us to become familiar with, which is something critical in an MMO or shared world environment. And Diablo
Yeah.
4 is always online because otherwise, all of the group-related content like PvP, world bosses, and events wouldn't.
I think most people are okay with always online with games that are designed with multiplayer in mind. MMOs, obviously, but there's other games like that. Like, I'm trying to think here. Mm, yeah, I think does MMOs, right? Which is what Diablo 4 seems to be really pushing, is it wants to go in that direction. So to me, it makes sense why it's always online. The problem is when you have games that are single player, doesn't even have the option for multiplayer, but it's still always online, that's when it's an issue because there's no reason for it.
Function or have use otherwise. Also, as a side note, I'm going to pull a J. Allen Brack. You don't care about procedurally generated areas as much as you think you do. You think you want them, but you don't. The dungeons are still dungeons. The fields of misery are still the fields of misery. Changing whether you go north for an objective versus south doesn't fundamentally change your experience, and I would argue it only serves as a frustration when you have to rediscover entrances to areas all over again. As mentioned previously, this is not Diablo 2. The procedurally generated world served as a way to give freshened gameplay to players that had to replay the world rather than complete other activities and objectives like world bosses, nightmare dungeons, and other things that are featured in Diablo 4. Keeping in mind that Diablo 4 is a shared world game, it would literally be impossible for them to create a procedurally generated world. However, it may still be possible for.
I mean, they could have used procedurally generated worlds, but now it's a shared world. So it's not done every single time you go in, but it was done during the making of it. So I don't know if that argument is really worth even talking about.
For them to do that with dungeons. Personally, I feel that procedural generation will only be missed if the world in Diablo 4 isn't well crafted or memorable. Alright, so I'll give you
Yeah,
my
that's
biggest
true.
concern with Diablo 4. I'm afraid of how much of Diablo 3 still lingers in the background. As a big fan of Diablo 2 who sunk a ton of hours into it, I felt like it was a major slap in the face what we got from Diablo 3. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually really liked Diablo 3 as a couch co-op arcadey style game to play. However, Diablo 3 was not a successor to Diablo 2. It felt more like playing Gauntlet at the arcade. Diablo 3 gave fans of the franchise a watered down mess. Runes and rune words? We don't need those. Just throw some generic runes on your skills and feel how they don't change the gameplay at all. Customize attributes? That's for nerds. Who needs identity when we can make everything feel the same? Deckard Cain? Death by butterfly.
Yeah. I mean, some of these, yeah, I do agree. But at the same time, I don't really mind when they try to simplify things as long as they do it and the game still feels good. Because when you get too crazy with the build like options, you get a game like PoE, which is just too much.
Diablo 3 was built for accessibility. Whether it was the lack of customization, the endless shower of legendaries, the game just felt.
That was only after, like, obviously, when the game first came out and they had the stupid real money auction house, legendaries were actually stupidly rare because they wanted people to use the auction house to buy legendaries. So I much prefer them doing a bunch of legendaries, showering people with it, than what it was in the beginning. Because the legendaries weren't even that good back then when it first came out. So you would get a legendary, and then it would be freaking trash, man. like worse than some greens. So it's like it was a compound of things on why um, legendaries are kind of weird with Diablo 3. Because in the beginning, not only were they stupidly rare, but most were garbage. So if you got a legendary, you get all excited, you pick it up, and it's for like an incredibly niche build, not even for your class, probably. Um, so yeah, like I'd rather have a bunch of them. That way I can kind of pick the ones I want versus them being super rare and then them being useless. I think the ideal one would have been legendary, should have been legendary, like really good. Making sure that if you did get one, even if it was rare, like you actually were excited.
Felt empty, unrewarding, and boring to play. Diablo 4 seems to turn away from everything that Diablo 3 and Diablo Immortal are, blazing its own path, paying homage to the real roots of the franchise's success. Diablo 2. The world is dark, bloody, gritty. Dispense with all of the cartoonish look from Diablo 3, Diablo 4 is every bit of the hell-torn landscape soaked in depravity that we...
Like, I think Diablo 4 really went back to like the tone that Diablo 2 was getting across, which is this is not a nice place to be. You know what I mean? Like, you do not want to be isekai'd into a Diablo world. Uh, unless you like isekai to the beginner zone and were able to level up and stuff. But other than that, like it's not a good place.
We have come to expect. Along with the changes to the world, Diablo 4 returns the power of choice back to the players. They're giving us an incredibly impactful skill tree and extensive weapon customization. In place of Diablo 2's runes and rune words, players are given the ability to use mechanics like the Herodric Cube from Diablo 3, pulling legendary aspects off weapons and placing them on others, permanently recording weapon affixes in their power
From
of
dungeons.
codex, and the ability to reroll stats through enchanting. Alright, so let's talk about the endgame. Because most of you guys that are watching this video are probably going to be buying Diablo 4 no matter what. The only question for us is whether or not we're going to be playing it for a long time, or if we're going to be playing it all the time. Now, back in November, some beta testers levied some pretty harsh complaints at Diablo 4's endgame. In fact, Force Gaming, one of the best ARPG channels on YouTube, compiled a video that had all of those complaints and some of his own, comparing Diablo 4 to Lost Ark. Now, one of the things that I want to make clear is Diablo 4 is not Lost Ark. And thank God for that.
Owning, I was about to say.
I could argue that Lost Ark's design is that of an MMO first and an ARPG second.
I don't know about that. I don't know if MMO is the right word for it. But I would definitely say Lost Ark has the best ARPG combat of any RPG I've ever played. So if they can at least get that part of it from Lost Ark, that would be great. Like, if you're going to learn anything from Lost Ark, please learn its combat.
Whereas Diablo 4 is an ARPG that just has shared world mechanics. It's obvious that the scale of an MMO is going to completely overshadow Diablo 4, especially an MMO that's had 4 years to grow, add new content, and monetize just about everything in the game. As someone who has casually played Lost Ark, I too had the thought that Diablo 4 had its work cut out for it. However, as the release for Diablo 4 grows closer, I have tempered those expectations and realized I was looking at the game from the wrong angle the entire time. As it stands, Diablo 4's endgame is a...
Were you really expecting the game to be an MMO? I mean, it has like world bosses, so there's definitely going to be parts of the game that are going to give you that feeling from an MMO. But overall, I think it would have been weird if you really thought it was going to be an MMO, because they would have said that already.
Massive improvement over rifts and bounties from Diablo 3.
Yeah,
we now have a shared world where we can run into other players. We have nightmare dungeons that seem to function similarly to Mythic Plus in World of Warcraft. Hell tides that wash over zones, giving us reasons to revisit them. PvP
like world
zones
events
to test our mettle against other players. World bosses, and finally the Tree of Whispers that acts kind of like the bounty board from Diablo 3. All of these activities have unique loot and resources which incentivize players to take part in all of them. Joe Shelley and Rod Ferguson have both come out stating in interviews that they plan on continuing to grow the endgame experience for Diablo 4 and provide large expansions in the future. They've looked at Diablo 4 as a test ground, where every single season they can bring in something new, see if it works, and then just add it to the game as a permanent mechanic. I believe that with all of the content that's been announced for Diablo 4, there is enough here for a very healthy and hearty endgame experience. And after making this video, doing the research, doing the writing, and reflecting on some of the concerns of the community, I've come to realize that we have a penchant for making problems that just don't exist. Philosopher Lucius Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than we do in reality." And I feel like that's incredibly apt here in this discussion for Diablo 4. Blizzard hasn't done themselves any favors, and they haven't really done a whole lot over the past few years to make
But that goes both ways. That's why it's not good to have like no what's the word I'm looking for, confirmation on things. Because a lot of times people will hype up the game unrealistically. So I mean, it goes both ways in that you would make the game worse, and you will also make the game better, just because it's vague. It's just right now because of what happened with Diablo Immortal. That vagueness is really not good because most people are going to assume that you're going to go the same route as Diablo Immortal, which thankfully they've released a lot of what's the word I'm looking for, news on the game and about the game that reflects that that is not going to be the case. So
fans of their games optimistic. However, recently, they've been farming wins, and to ignore that would be dumb. Overwatch 2 is doing well. World of Warcraft Dragonflight has been
I've heard mixed things with Overwatch 2, so I don't know if I trust that. Like, some people like it, some people hate it, some people say the game is dying now, other people say it's making the game better. So I don't know who to trust with that. Because and it's from big, content creators. I've heard both ways, so I don't know.
received positively, and I believe that Diablo 4 is going to follow this trend and go down as another win in the books. I could
Yeah.
be wrong. My glass
I think you should be optimistic about the game, but you shouldn't be blind. It shouldn't be blind optimism. So, but personally, I'm really looking forward to it,
half full mentality could
especially after they did the most recent season with Diablo 3. I'm really looking forward to Diablo 4 because like they're gonna take things from that and put it in Diablo 4. So
very well be my demise. However, one thing is for certain. I'm going to be buying Diablo 4. And so will you.
yeah, I think most people who would even look up videos for Diablo 4 are probably gonna get it. But to be fair, it's not a bad thing because everything they've talked about so far with Diablo 4 has been good. I can't think of a single thing other than the whole we're gonna make it harder to respec the higher level you get, which is such a stupid idea. So that you can feel like I don't know, I just feel like it's a dumb thing. But at the same time, like other than that, like I'm every announcement has made me more and more like hyped about the game coming out. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a good video.